Perfect. Are we ready to get started? Okay.
Good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stanford Healthcare Design Challenge 2025. I'm very excited to kick off our learning series. As you know, research has shown most hackathon projects don't make it very far. Research shows that only 7% are still active 6 months after they have ended, which is a huge drop-off, but that's exactly why we're here. At the Stanford Healthcare Design Challenge, our goal is to change that story and help great ideas actually grow into real solutions. We are a student-led initiative designed to truly move the needle in healthcare. Our mission is to bridge the gap between the end of a hackathon and real world. We do this by sharing the healthcare knowledge through open learning series, expanding access to our incredible mentor network, and connecting teams with industry leaders through our judging panel. Let me highlight a few of the resources we provide. Winning teams receive stipends, direct mentorship, and support from industry partners to help transform ideas into reality after the competition ends. I would like to also introduce you to our amazing team. They've been working tirelessly to bring this year's challenge to life, and we're always looking for new talent. If you're interested in joining us, reach out to us via email. We would love to connect with you or through our LinkedIn. Last year, our theme was centered on the social determinants of health. However, this year, we are going global. Our vision is to design a challenge with worldwide reach and impact for any student at any university anywhere around the world. And here's the prompt for the 2025 challenge. We want you to design a financially sustainable and scalable healthcare solution that addresses the needs of populations experiencing geographic transitions. In particular, we want you to focus on communities currently undergoing migration, whether within national borders or across international borders. You can also scan the QR code to visit our website and learn more about the prompt and this year's challenge. A quick reminder of the key dates. The applications are now open and they are due by September 22nd. The competition takes place in October, ending in the demo day on October 17th. Don't wait and apply today. And be sure to fill the interest form to stay up to date with the announcements. We've got an exciting lineup of speakers for our September programming, including guest speakers, interactive sessions, and October will be just as packed with opportunities to learn, collaborate, and refine your ideas. And without further ado, let's dive into the September learning series with my friend Bianca introducing our speaker for today, Dr. Chen.
Wait, sorry. I just need to check if there's people in the waiting room.
Bianca, can you give me back the host? I will handle that.
Okay. How do I give it back to you?
Just do the 3 dots on top, and then you will be able to like say add to host.
Where? Sorry, I don't see it.
So on your profile pic on the icon, there's a 3 dots.
Oh, okay.
And then just click on me and then do big. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, perfect.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
All good.
Okay. I guess we're good to go on introducing our speaker. So today, thank you everyone for joining our first September learning series of this year's challenge. Today's session is specifically going to be on a 30-minute presentation on storytelling for a cause and raising capital, followed by a 20-minute Q&A session. So please save all your questions for the end. So first, I'm really excited to introduce our speaker, Dr. Zen Chu. the force behind some of the most impactful health tech ventures of the past decade. He is a senior lecturer in healthcare innovation at both the MIT Sloan School of Management and Harvard MIT Health Sciences and Technology program. As the founder of MIT's Hacking Medicine and a seasoned biotech entrepreneur, Dr. Chu doesn't just teach innovation, he builds it. As a consultant and co-founder of multiple companies, he specializes in medical technology, pharmaceuticals, and AI-driven innovation. His work has helped launch dozens of companies that are reshaping how care is delivered around the world. We're going to hear firsthand how he empowers students and startups to tackle healthcare's hardest problems with bold, actionable ideas. What makes Dr. Chu remarkable isn't just his track record, but it's his willingness to roll up his sleeves and mentor the next generation of health innovators. Students often speak about how he turns vague ideas into investable ventures through a single conversation, and he's known for asking tough, clarifying questions that push teams to think bigger, move faster, and execute with precision. Dr. Chu doesn't just believe in innovation, he insists on it, and he builds a community that does the same. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Chu. Dr. Chu, thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for such a generous, way too generous intro. And you gave me a degree that I didn't earn, so I'm not a doctor. I took a deferment from medical school and never went, and this is the best decision for me at that back in the late '80s. But I've been able to have an impact, and I love teaching. My magic mix of class as well as hackathons is equal parts PhDs and MDs, entrepreneurs and MBAs, and then engineers that can actually make stuff. So what I'll try to do is just give you a little sense of me. Let's see, is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'll try and give everyone a little sense of me, and then just a whirlwind tour of how I think about high stakes pitching. All right, which is high stakes storytelling. Okay, so I mean, what do I do? I mean, I've founded a handful of companies. I've invested in a bunch more, usually as the very first investor or among the first investors and board member. And so, that's kind of what I love doing, is investing in my old students and investing in big missions, big causes. These days, there's so much noise. AI is sucking the capital from everything else. So if you're not AI, it's kind of famine amid the feast, and so you're seeing lots of these presentations sprinkle AI on top of stuff, and we'll get into a little of that. But as an investor, I'm sourcing problems, I'm sourcing people that I can recruit, or the founders that I want to invest in, or important partners. As CEO coach, I'm teaching them storytelling. I'm pitching alongside them, because you never should pitch alone, and I'll tell you why a little later. And then I'm really changing their mindset, right? I'm trying to help them think bigger. I'm trying to eliminate fear, because the fear is anathema to creativity. Whether you're in a crisis or not. And you're really trying to de-risk this stuff, and show and prove to the investors that you've de-risked certain things, and the risks ahead, that their capital is going to go towards de-risking. And then I'm at any one time, someone's having a crisis, either that they're having to fire someone, or or they're getting fired, or they're fundraising amid this noise, and all of the biotech world working out problems in their portfolios. So you know, there's always a crisis of one thing or another, and I try to leave enough bandwidth that I can parachute into crises so that they don't even become bigger, or just trying to keep the startup alive. You know, every startup that I've been involved in has been a decade's journey, right? A hero's journey, hopefully. But the way I describe, as opposed to the hockey stick that you typically see in the success stories, right, that are totally biased by only sharing those successes. And in my class, we try to share a bunch of stories about failure too, and statistically, you know, why startups fail. And why we've organized the class like we've done, and the hackathons. But you know, you start up as a lonely founder. You have the spark of an idea. You go into this and you learn more, and that's the hairball of early stage discovery and pivots. And either you approach despair and death, or you find product market fit, and you know, and you recruit a team, and you're all rowing in sync, and you've got your North Star that you're heading towards, and that's really the journey that my course focuses on, those very earliest stages when you're really trying to pull all the data together, figure out what kind of team you need, partners, and things like that. So it's a process, but it's a process that manufactures luck. If I ever write a book, that's what it's going to be called. I'll share a few venture capital dirty secrets so you can get a taste of what my scars are, at least. You know, value is set by fundraising, right? That's how you drive the value of your company, value in subsequent stuff. And by the way, I can't see people's questions or anything, so if the host could call it out, you know, happy to have you interrupt me. Most funds lose money, and most funds are lemmings. You know, they're following what these days you see it because once Andreessen or you know, Sequoia, one of the big companies, makes a bet, you see others pile into it, and you've got lots of early stage funds, right? And but a lot of times they act as lemmings. A few giant hits drive the returns of an entire fund, right? And so you've got to kind of fit within that. You know, they're going to want you to return the fund. So if it's $100 million fund, they want you to their stake in you to be worth $100 million. That's what you've the kind of back of the napkin calculations that you've got to kind of fit within. Cyclical fundraising cycles. These are 10-year funds. You know, they're all having, they were all flying high in 21 and 22. Those same funds, you know, invested in a lot of bad companies at really high valuations, and are working through those problems now. And so, you know, that's kind of choking up the system and reducing the bandwidth that they have to make new investments. And also, you know, historically, larger funds perform worse. So, you know, you can if you find a smaller fund, number one, you'll get more attention from them because you're going to be a bigger part of their portfolio. Now, the best VCs can drive huge value, right? But it's at the individual partner level, usually not the VC firm. And so choose your partner just like you're choosing a particular lawyer or a particular other consultant. But they have the right VCs have a lot of insights and pattern recognition from their deal flow and from their portfolio. And so, you know, when you do the homework on their portfolio and what they like to invest, the types of companies they like to invest in, different insights will come out of that. And they're going to help you recruit your follow-on investors, right? In fact, you know, the VCs that I've raised, my favorite VCs have said, hey, you let me into this deal and I will raise the next round for you, right? And they did. You know, partnerships, acquisition negotiations, they are your bad guy, right? They are the bad guy that will help you. But when you're trying to preserve a relationship and build a partnership, but you got to negotiate hard on those terms, right? That's the role I play as a board member, even as an independent board member. And you only need one yes to unlock this stuff, right? So one right yes can, whether it's your 20th pitch or your 100th pitch, it can really catalyze around coming together. And what I tell my teams is go raise on the West Coast, since the West Coast VCs think bigger and are less valuation sensitive, and then build where you want, right? Now, when a VC says no, what does that mean, right? Is it you or is it them? And sometimes you're just too small of a market, too small of an opportunity. You're too early or you're too late. They typically want early, want late. It's kind of a situation where sometimes it's taste, sometimes it's their first impressions. It may be their impression of you and the team, right? And everything gets easier with a track record of success. And if you've made money for someone before, like everything gets easier, diligence gets easier, things like that. But oftentimes it's not you, right? They're chasing more exciting problems. They're chasing something that they think is the hot deal. Just like dating, a lot of similar dynamics. They might not have a passion for it, or they might not think that yours is the adventure that they want to be on. Like for instance, I didn't invest in a fantastic company that was doing colonoscopies because I just didn't want to think about colonoscopies all day. If they may have already backed an opportunity that is too similar, right? Or they may think of it as overlapping risk in their portfolio, or they may be fighting fires because one portfolio company is shitting, or three portfolio companies are shitting the bed, and they just don't have the bandwidth. And there may be other fun dynamics that because they are raising behind the scenes just like you are. And so, or a partner may be deciding to leave or deciding to join a portfolio company or something like that. So all of this stuff can be opaque to you, but it's what's going on in the background. And so your pitches are just gaining permission to go deeper in the next meeting, right? Each pitch is a trust building exercise. So what goes into the essential elements of a pitch, right? You got to have a big problem. It's why should I care? Why now? How is this inevitable? I like to say that I invest in inevitable medical solutions. I only invest in healthcare, whether it's med tech or biotech or digital health services. But I gotta feel like it's inevitable. And then the question is this team going to accelerate, what to, the next 3 years or 5 years? Is it going to be durable? Do you have a long-term moat? Is it scalable tech, right? Does it truly scale? And what I love to say is tech is the only thing that can scale medicine and simultaneously accomplish the quadruple aim of healthcare, which is better quality, lower costs, better access, and lower burnout. Then, of course, you got to have intellectual property. That healthcare is one of the few areas where IP still has value. Although, if it's AI, it probably doesn't, or you need to keep it as a trade secret because the patents won't really be worth anything or be defensible. You got to have founder market fit, and you got to explain your pitch and your background in a way that makes sense. And then you got to have a good cocktail pitch. And this is something that I learned from Arch Ventures, where if you can put the words into, instead of an elevator pitch, which is your super short pitch, but a cocktail party pitch, is what a billionaire, when someone comes up to that investor and says, what are you investing in? That you want to be the thing that they are proud to describe to their friends and to people that they want to impress. And so that's the cocktail party pitch, which is, you know, that they can replicate that pitch because it's simple and distilled enough, like an elevator pitch. But cocktail party pitch is what you is elevated even further because it's what they want to do to impress people. So what works for VCs, it works for partners, and it works for billionaires. And it's really storytelling, right? And so I use a picture of a campfire, but it's also choreography. You're trying to herd these cats and you're trying to bring them in as a cohort so that when you say, hey, we're gonna take term sheets on this date, that you'll get multiple term sheets ideally, and you can get some sort of competition. That's even hard for serial entrepreneurs, but that's what you're striving for. That's why Y Combinator is magical, because you can on a demo day have multiple term sheets coming. So setting the stage for this, all right? The essential deliverables or assets is you need a deck, you need a one-pager, and you don't really need a full business plan written out like in the old days, right? So don't waste your time doing it. But writing that prose, even the one-pager, is a really good exercise in really distilling exactly how you tell the story in a logical fashion, right? And the deck is the first one to do, because you get the order right and you practice the order and you improv that and in your early friendly pitches, and then you can distill that into a one-pager or a two-pager, right? And then you I like a visual map, a one slide that I can kind of have a conversation with. And often that's a competitive landscape, or maybe it's your patient journey, or your user journey. But you want one thing that you can kind of describe the richness of all that you've kind of figured out and distilled into your business and business model. I also use stealth in almost every one of my companies. You don't want to share too much. You don't want to overshare. You want to keep some things secret. You want to know what your secret sauce is, that you'll only tell folks when you really have a trusted relationship with them, right? And you want to create scarcity of that information and of even the knowledge of your startup, right? And that intrigue ends up pulling them in. You want to choose the right setting, right? Do you want to be pitching them in a loud Starbucks, or do you want to be pitching them in their office, or do you want to bring them to an area that is kind of inspiring for that, whether it's and helps you tell that story, whether it's Stanford Hospital or somewhere else that's interesting, or a nursing home, right? But choose a setting, bring them into that where it enhances your storytelling. You got to do your homework, right? Really know their portfolio. Do they have a competitor in your portfolio? How long does it take for them to tell you that they actually have a conflict? You want to try and get that early so that you don't tell them something sensitive that leaks. You're also trying to create diversity in their portfolio. While you want an investor that is comfortable in your domain and technology area, you also have to not be so similar that they think it doesn't diversify their portfolio, because their job is to create a set of 20 to 40 bets all in one fund that gives their investors incredible diversification. So you want to be different enough, even while you're trying to find investors that are comfortable and have expertise in your domain. You want to have the right intro, right? You want to have social social signals that that precede you. All right, you want to convince them that you have a problem, a founder problem fit, right? That you're the right person that has the passion for this and has unique insights into what the solution should be. And then, of course, you got your team and your advisors beyond yourself. And one map that I use to help people kind of think about their team building is, on one axis you've got kind of strategy versus product execution, and on the other you've got genius versus hustle, right? And you've got the various types in here. Are you a sales CEO, or are you the expert that is going to be the early stage CEO because you know the technology so much better than anyone else? Or are you just the technical founder and you want to hire the sales CEO? And so, and of course, grind is better than expertise. This is all very hard work, and the devil's in the details. And these VCs have finely tuned bullshit detectors. So their antenna is very well tuned for this, and you got to come off as authentic and not posing. And because we're at such a frothy environment, especially in AI, you got a lot of posers that come into, this is like when I left Silicon Valley in 1999, right? At the peak of the first dot-com boom, everyone was getting in. Everyone was kind of getting greedy, and you have a lot of posers. And so the VCs are mainly trying to suss out who they think are just real and committed and authentic, and who is just out posing as a CEO on Instagram. Don't pitch alone, because you can't in that until you're really comfortable with your pitch. It's harder for you to read the signals from them and to really write down the questions that they ask so that you can improve your pitch for the next one. So especially in your early friendly pitches, don't pitch alone. Have someone listening, taking notes. What I tend to be join the CEO in those early pitches, like the first 5 or 10 pitches, because I can give them breathing room, right? Especially when I know the investor, by posing some questions, giving the CEO a little time to think about the right answer, and also just bringing them back to the central message and not going down some rabbit holes. Ask for advice, not money, right? That's the old adage. Is to don't ask for money, but ask for advice, and that rings true. And that really turns this into a conversational pitch, right? The one of the biggest mistakes that first-time entrepreneurs especially make is you talk too much, and if you had 30 minutes, you talked for 20 and then only got 10 minutes to talk, right? Or even worse, they'll talk for 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and then run out of time. And so make sure that you know the amount of time you have, and try to distill your stuff down into 5 slides or 2 slides so that you can get a better sense of, do they even care about this space? You want to project intensity. You want to project fearlessness. And especially in healthcare, we've got so many really nice missionary-driven founders, right? And they're loath to call out someone as a villain, but because they're too nice, right? These healthcare people are too nice. But you really have to say, either that disease is our villain, or that particular technology is our villain, that incumbent, right? I love to attack big incumbents. Whether it's Epic, which is the giant EHR, or DaVita, which is the giant 800-pound gorilla in dialysis. Take down the big incumbent, right? They've got a $400 billion market, and you just need a little piece of it. Show that you got access to power, right? You're all at Stanford. You've got access to great experts. but you also want to just show that you got sharp elbows, that you're going to play hard, and that no one should fuck with you, right? Because a lot of people will try, right? They may say, I didn't like that team, but I could take our venture partner or our entrepreneur in residence and have them create a team because this is a good idea in a good space, right? That's the risk you take with some of these firms. And so you got to project that you got access to power so that they shouldn't want to fuck with you. And that gets us to name dropping. You have to use it pretty carefully. It should be a legit relationship if you do name drop someone, but whether that's someone in DC or someone at Stanford or another VC, use that very carefully. And then with post-economic investors, which is, who has made a lot of money and doesn't need to work anymore, right? That's a different type of investor. That's some of VCs will be like this. Certainly billionaires are like this. They're distracted among a bunch of stuff, whether it's travel, whether it's girlfriends, whether it's buying a yacht or designing a new house. But they can be incredibly distracted. They can be fickle, but they can also be your biggest boosters. Now the pitch, okay. Well, what you need to do for the pitch is distill a clear problem and a key moment in that journey of the patient, that journey of the physician user, whomever, and that you've got willing economic buyers, right? And that you have a clear economic buyer, because a lot of times in healthcare you get lost in this triangle of third-party payer and the doctor and the patient and, or some other beneficiary. And so you got to have a clearly identified economic buyer, and that you're doing it into a large and growing market. So conversations versus pitches is what I always say, right? Don't use all your time going through your slides and reading legit off of each slide, but have a conversation, set it, and do it in a way that you're looking them in the eye and you're getting a read for whether they're interested or whether they have scars, and don't hesitate to stop the conversation and go down some of that with them. And then of course, cocktail party pitches rule, right? And this is where you can put a 2-sentence pitch into the investor's mouth that they can repeat verbatim. And you're earning a right to another meeting. All you're doing, whether it's a 15-minute pitch or a 15-second pitch, is you're earning the right to another meeting. And you do that by having a big audacious goal, right? Silicon Valley's great at this. In Boston, they're still learning about some of this, but it takes just as much work to make a crappy little convenience store around the corner as it is to make a giant, audacious biotech company. But it's a lot easier to raise when you have an audacious goal, when you have a big mission, when you really could kind of change something, right? And these days, there's so much noise out there. There's, whether it's in deep tech or med tech or biotech, there's just a lot of great stuff out there, and they're chasing the latest sparkly thing. So you gotta, if you can get that, big mission, that's awesome. If you can't, you're going to be seen as a point solution with more risks, with a smaller TAM, and it's going to be challenging. You got to have a sense of adventure. This is an adventure, and if you don't think it's an adventure, you're going to lose steam a lot faster, and you're not going to have enough adrenaline to carry you through the lows. I always frame things as this is an adventure. The train's leaving the station, and all you're trying to do is filter out a couple of groups, right? There's most people in the world, most VCs are asleep to your problem, to the problem that you think that you're tackling. and you're trying to decide very quickly who's asleep, who's a cheerleader, but on the sidelines, and who's willing to go to war with you, right? That the warriors are who you're trying to suss out and find, and don't waste time on anyone else. And so each pitch is a trust building exercise. You gotta have an origin myth of, why this problem, on the way to proving founder market fit. You want to have some shocking insights, right? Sprinkle in some of those. Know your data. Prove that you've got authentic purpose in this, because most portfolios, 90% failure rate, right? Everyone knows in Silicon Valley the 90% number, but my portfolio, I've only had 30% failures, because I invest in people, because at the earliest stages, that's all you have, right? Maybe you've got a slide deck, maybe you've got a provisional patent, but really all you have is the people, because all of that stuff is going to change. And so when I've invested in someone whose self-identity is totally entwined with that startup purpose and mission, they don't let it die, right? You can run out of money and they still won't let it die, and they will crawl through thorns and forests and not let that thing die, and then you find the next investor for the next phase of the business. You got to have urgent problems, whether it's a hospital or a doctor, or some other part of the healthcare value chain. There's so many problems, but you got to know that this is an urgent problem that they need to solve, right? And in the case of hospitals, they've got lots of hair on fire problems, but they don't think of each other as having the same hair on fire problems. And so what is the reproducible, pitch and product or service to them? Memorize your facts, and you're trying to prove, why should they care? Why now? You're trying to figure out who cares about this. One of my old TAs had a kidney stone problem, and he couldn't find anyone that cared about kidney stones until he found investors who had kidney stones, right? And they were like, oh God, this is obvious, and yes, we will back you. You want to have some secret knowledge. VCs trade in secret knowledge, right? It may be public knowledge, but it just may not be widely understood. And then of course you've got your own kind of trade secrets, right? That you want to be very careful about divulging. But that secret knowledge just kind of pulls people in and creates that intrigue. You want to prove that you're going after a market that has a scarcity. Where is scarcity? Where's abundance? And where's your ability to arbitrage that? Inevitability. I like to say that I invest in inevitable companies. Use plain language, be careful of jargon. You want to sprinkle in some technical stuff sometimes when you know that they know the domain. Because that proves that, oftentimes that jargon is a shortcut to that language, but you want to use that sparingly. And then the art of the demo, right? Make a good demo. If you can do a magical demo, my favorite is the CEO of a bridge, which is one of my startups that I've been involved in since the very beginning, and now is kind of the hottest generative AI healthcare startup. He gives an incredible demo. So go look at Abridge's demos on YouTube, because he just walks you through, and it looks like magic, and doctors' jaws drop, and that's why they, in their first year of revenue, made over 100 million. So it's about show and tell. Sometimes you can, and you want to sprinkle in the right terms, but one of the best demos for Wellness for this was, the thump factor, right? What can you thump down on that desk or on that table to show what the existing solutions are, right? And how crappy they are. And in the case of Wellness is building an e-commerce environment for around a hospital for all those things that patients need before and after surgery, for instance, right? And so usually the discharge nurse at the hospital has a bunch of business cards or brochures of the carpenter that will make ramps for you, or the people that will do home cooked meals for you after when you're in a sling for a month, things like that. And now they've taken that and made an e-commerce part of every hospital's website, right? But that ugly book of tattered business cards was the thump factor. You got to be careful of overpitching and using up all your time, right? Leave most of the time for a conversation. And then in between meetings, if you're earning the right to the next meeting, and at the next meeting, what you got to show, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months, is that you've learned what you've learned, what you've made progress in, and how you've changed your business model or pitch or go-to-market strategy as a result of those learnings. And then you got to close a deal, right? You got to drive it to a real term, and you got to find out, who's in to catalyze the deal, and then you got to go clean up and fill in the round, right? So you just need a lead. Everyone's always chasing the lead, but you also want clean standard terms, right? Beware of the VCs that start to put in all kinds of special terms and ratchets and all of this stuff because they think that you have no negotiating leverage, right? This is why you want to create options for yourself so that they can deliver you clean standard terms. And Y Combinator has really helped the whole industry with standard terms for safes, but also standard terms for seed. Keep your financial models and economics basic, right? I like to create just all on one page. Don't have macros and things like that. And then make it easy for them to do the diligence, right? Provide them with the doctors that they can call and ask, right? Provide them with the partners that are saying, yeah, if they build this, I'll buy it, or I want to take it to my customers. Have the experts on point. So to make diligence easy as well, have those put the words into those experts' mouths. Make sure that they say the right stuff, and practice it with them before. Don't take it for granted that the experts are gonna sing your praises, because sometimes they'll talk about everything and they'll scare your investor off. And then you got to create urgency. You got to have some deadlines and create some FOMO. And it's harder to do, but and you got to be careful about trying to create that inauthentically. And then you set a deadline, and then you extend it, and then it falls apart, and it's clear that you didn't really have a lead and stuff like that. You got to be careful of that. And beware of VCs that cause you to negotiate against yourself, right? Where they don't give you a counter proposal. They just say, well, come back to me with a better proposal. And then, some of my favorite summer reading for some of this, Venture Deals is a fantastic way to learn how to structure and what each of those terms are, by Brad Feld, one of our MIT VCs. Making PCR is a really short book, but it's about the anthropology of what it takes to go from discovery to a real startup. The USV folks and some other VCs give all their startups, Born Standing Up by Steve Martin, because how he created his stand-up act and developed and evolved it is exactly what you're doing with your startup pitch. And then there's a couple of books we use to teach the business model, Canvas stuff, and disciplined entrepreneurship from MIT. So hopefully that helps. And happy to help you all. I think the prompt for this hackathon is a fantastic one, right? We've got over 50 million displaced people in the world and refugees. We had a refugee hackathon maybe a year and a half ago, and there's so much that you can do for displaced people. So happy to help on that front as well.
Thank you,
Any
Professor Chu. This has been really insightful. I guess now we can move on to the Q&A segment of this session. So I guess one of the most pressing questions that our students usually have is, what patterns do you see in the ventures that succeed versus those that stall?
Patterns that I see in successes versus failures? Well, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to fail. There's a lot of fewer ways to succeed. Beware of people that give you or claim to have a playbook for this, X, Y, or Z, right? Every healthcare startup that I've been involved in is a unique beast. A Bridge, for instance, there were 6 well-funded competitors when we started, but the cardiologist founder was unique, and he was the first one to design a patient-centric product, right? That was built around the patient as opposed to built around the doctor in the hospital. And that ended up giving them really unique insights for what features and functionality they wanted to put in their product versus the competition. And it really changed how the whole product grew.
Again, I want to thank you so much for this insightful lecture. Another question we have is, what's a common mistake you see first-time health tech founders make, and how do you help them course correct?
Well, let's see. They overpitch and they don't have a conversation. Is this in the? I guess I'll separate into pitching. I've already gone through. Let me go towards like doing the actual business. Keep the team small. Keep the teams really lean until you work out all the rest. And don't have too many co-founders. Right, three co-founders is highly likelihood that you're going to have to fire one of them. Let's see, not firing fast enough, right? That's an old adage. Is by the time you commit to firing, you wish you had done it, months before. And then let's see. Well, I mean, there's a lot, but those are the ones off the top of my mind.
Thank you. And then another question is, when you're really looking at early stage ideas, what are some signals that tell you that there's real impact or investment?
Signals are people trying to buy it. People not giving your prototype back, right? Maybe you give your 10 prototypes out. Who doesn't want to give it back, right? And why, right? And that's usually really telling insights for why are they special, right? Why do they value this more than the others? And that's what you're trying to do. You're not trying to sell to everyone. You're trying. I think of whole markets as a pyramid, right? And most of us don't want to make, tools that only the rich can buy, right? But practically, a lot of times you have to start at the top of the pyramid because that's who's going to be willing to pay out of pocket, right? That's who's going to not wait for insurance coverage or FDA approval or whatever else, right? And so you start there, and sometimes, like in a healthcare redesign services company, you work out you do stuff manually with one doctor and a small number of customers, and you figure out what to automate so you can drive down that pyramid. Other companies will start at the base of the pyramid and say, hey, we're going to focus on Medicare, Medicaid customers because we can deliver this profitably to them and efficaciously. And when we do that, and we know we can make money with Medicare, Medicaid, we know we can make a multiple of that with privately insured patients, right? And so they start at the bottom and work up. But just know where you're starting, and it depends based on your business.
Innovation in healthcare can be very slow and messy. How do you balance between the urgency to move fast with the need for the rigorous validation in healthcare innovation?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's everything is speed. Everything is speed these days, especially given vibe coding and given how much copycat competition gets out there, right? And that's why you want to be stealth for as long as you can. You get one chance to unveil yourself to the world, or unveil yourself to, and of course that comes in phases, right? You unveil yourself to VCs, you unveil yourself to potential corporate partners, you unveil yourself to the world, but there's that intrigue factor.
Yeah, and then our students also had a question on exactly what overpitching means. I think you talked about this earlier, and they would just like more clarification.
Basically talking too much and not giving space, and strategically pausing at certain sections and inviting questions so that you can get any sort of signal and read, right? You're not just trying to, vomit a bunch of information at them. You're trying to kind of test stage-wise, is this a space they're interested in? Are they passionate about it? Do they have conflicts? And the only way you do that is getting to making space in the time for a true conversation so that you can get some feedback. Because so many times, first-time entrepreneurs will come out of a venture meeting and say, they'll tell me, I thought that went great. And I, who was in it, I'll ask them, well, what was their perspective on X, Y, or Z? Are they a fan of that space? Are they a fan of your business model? Do they have a scar from investing previously in that business model that went bad? So you got to get feedback from them, and then the only way you can do that is to stop talking.
Where do you see the biggest untapped opportunities in digital health over the next 3 to 5 years?
Biggest untapped, oh, that's a hard one. I mean, there's so many, right? In healthcare is in the US $4 trillion, right? It's a set of 1,000 multi-billion-dollar niches. That's how to view healthcare. It's a problem-rich environment. And most of it's being served by a lot of bullshit intermediate, players that are just rent-seeking, regulatory capture businesses, whether it's United Health or Optum Health or the PBMs and things like that. Those are great targets, by the way, right? I bet on a startup every day of the week winning against those behemoths if you can cut through the regulatory hurdles and the business relationships and the kickbacks and stuff like that, right? So, but there's so many. I mentioned dialysis. I've been looking for 7 years for someone to kick the ass at DaVita and Fresenius, because that is truly the matrix business, right? You hook machines and tubes up to people, and you extract money from them at $32,000 per year for a terrible healthcare experience and really shitty healthcare outcomes. So if anyone's got a solution for dialysis and home dialysis, come to me. Yeah, there's so many problems. There's so many little niches to reinvent, and Yeah, I don't have the list at the top of my head, but you know, what can you? One filter is just go through all the specialties and say, well, here's one of the lenses that I can share with you. Right, we're in a period across the world of doctor and nurse shortages. Right, so that's where the scarcity is. Time with a doctor. How can you help that doctor be more productive? How can you have a better conversation, that sacred conversation between doctor and patient, right? That's what a bridge is solving. And it saves doctors 2 to 3 hours per day, which is why the doctors value it, because they get to actually have dinner with their kids now. So you know, what areas of scarcity can you tackle, and where is there abundance, right? In AI, there's abundance of processing cycles. There's an abundance of tokens, and how can you take that and throw it against, you know, these kind of hairy workflows that you have to go check a bunch of contracts and insurance documents to know what is covered, and then, you know, what rights and benefits the patient has before you can even know what you'll authorize for them to receive.
Another question that our students had was, what advice would you give to those who are, you know, maybe interested in healthcare startups, but might not necessarily know where to start?
Well, one of my specialties is recruiting, you know, refugees from high tech who either are coming off of a failed startup or had a success, and now they're trying to think of what's next, and they want to do something that's got a healthcare mission, right? That's what's fantastic about healthcare, is it is a noble mission, right? Because you're trying to alleviate suffering and help patients. So one of my specialties is recruiting great tech folks with the right technology chops to come into healthcare, because, you know, you've got these multi-billion-dollar niches, and, you know, for instance, and then it can go back the other way. When PillPack got started, no one was willing to fund 2 30-year-olds that were competing directly with Walgreens and CVS, right, to do mail order pharmacy. But pretty quickly, once they got their business started, once they showed that the average monthly spend of an average patient that was on 15 medications, right? These are average Americans, 15 medications, right? Their average monthly spend was $400, right? And they had almost no churn. They had less than 1% churn. So those customers were buying and moving and influencing $400 worth of economic purchases per month, right? And what other e-commerce startup has that dynamic? And so then the tech funds clamored to come into this business, because it was like, and they were a tiny little boat sailing in a $400 billion market of prescription medications, and where so many patients don't take the meds that they're prescribed. So how do you change the customer experience for that? And that PillPack was bought for $1 billion by Amazon to be the cornerstone of their healthcare strategy as a result.
It's been an honor, and we are very, very, very happy to have you as one of our speakers in our learning series. Unfortunately, we did run out of time, and yeah, thank you so much for joining us and for this great opportunity.
Good. Well, folks can have my email, and feel free to send stuff or connect with me on LinkedIn, and good luck with your hackathon. Can't wait to see what comes out of it.
Thanks so much.
All right. Ciao.